Come here a sec. I want to show you something before you make a mistake. I see folks making every single week. Right there. That's a battery someone just tossed in the trash. A perfectly good deep cycle battery, the kind you drop real money on, just sitting in the burn pile like a busted jar. The guy who tossed it, he told me it was completely dead, said it wouldn't hold a charge anymore. So he drove into town, dropped over $2,000 on a brand new one, and hauled this old one out to the garbage. And the honest truth is, there was likely nothing wrong with it that a cup of water and a little patience couldn't fix. I've been farming the same piece of dirt my family settled generations ago, and I want to let you in on a little secret about batteries. The guy at the auto parts store has absolute no incentive to ever tell you this, because there is zero profit in it for anyone but you. Most batteries that get thrown out aren't actually dead. They are thirsty, they are dirty, or they've been left sitting neglected until they went sour. And almost every single time, it's because of something you did without even realizing you were doing it, which means it is something you can easily fix. You aren't going to learn some magic trick today. You are just going to learn how to keep a piece of equipment alive the way my grandpa kept his horses. Alive by giving it a little attention before it needs it, rather than a lot of attention after it's too late. Now, I like to shoot straight right from the jump because I'd rather lose your trust in the first 60 seconds than at the very end. I actually put all the charts numbers and details for this into a full written guide online, so you don't have to squint at your phone screen out in the garage. If you want it, it's out there. I won't bring it up again. So, let's talk about what a battery actually is in plain English, because once you understand that, the rest just makes sense. Inside that heavy brackstick case, you've got rows of lead plates sitting in a liquid bath. That bath is called the electrolyte, and it's basically just a mix of water and acid. Every time you draw power out of that battery, or push power back in by charge it, a tiny bit of that water turns to gas and escapes in the air. But not the acid. The acid stays right where it is, only the water leaves. My grandpa would have understood this instantly, because it's exactly like boiling a kettle on the stove. Boil a pot of salt water long enough, the water turns to steam, and the salt gets left behind, getting thicker and thicker. A battery does the exact same thing. The water evaporates a little at a time, leaving the acid behind to get strong and harsher than it was ever meant to be. Here is where those lead plates come into play. Those plates have to stay completely submerged in that liquid bath, covered, bathed, top to bottom. When the water level drops slow enough that the tops of the plates are exposed to the air, that dry section stops working. Even worse, the part sticking out of the water starts to dry out, harden, and ruin permanently. It doesn't bounce back. So a battery running low on water isn't just acting weak, it is literally dying from the top down, an inch at a time. And every single day you leave it like that is a day of its lifespan you will never get back. That is the #1 killer of a good battery, and it's the easiest thing in the world to prevent. You just give it water. But hold on, put the garden hose down, because this part is crucial. You do not use tap water. You do not use rainwater from your barrel. And I say that as a guy who catches every drop of rain he can. Tap water, well water, and rainwater all carry minerals, iron, calcium, whatever's in your local dirt. Those minerals are fine for you and your garden, but inside a battery, they latch on those lead plates and choke them out, like hard water scaling up an old pipe until nothing can flow through it. Once that mineral scale is on the plates, it is never coming off. So, you use distilled water. Only distilled water. The kind you buy in a plastic jug at the grocery store for $1. Distilled water has had all those minerals cooked out of it, leaving absolutely nothing behind to choke the plates. Just clean water to bring the bath back up to exactly where it belongs. Let me walk you through the process exactly how I'd teach it to my own kid out in the shop, because there is a right order to this, and that order keeps you safe. Step 1, and I am dead serious about this, protect your eyes, put on safety glasses, goggles you got, throw on old long, sleeve shirt, and grab some work gloves. That bath inside the battery is acid, and if it's been sitting there drying out, it is highly concentrated. It doesn't care how careful you think you are. It will find your eye if you give it the chance. Gear up before you ever think about popping a cap. I'm not being overcautious here. I've seen chemical burns that never healed right. Protect your eyes. Step 2. Look at the top of your battery and find the caps. Most flooded batteries, the kind we're talking about today, have caps you can twist or pry off, one over each cell. A standard 22-volt battery has 6 of them in a row. Now, if battery is sealed and literally says, "Do not open," respect that. This method isn't for that battery. But those good deep cycle ones, the workhorses you keep for your solar setups, your electric fences, or the shop, most of those can be opened and maintained. Step 3. Before you pour a single drop, look inside. Grab a flashlight and peer down in every single cell. You are looking for the tops of those lead plates. If they're completely underwater, great. That cell is fine. If they are sticking up dry in the air, that's a thirsty cell. Now you know the problem. But here is where almost everyone messes up, so pay close attention. Right now, you only add enough distilled water to just barely cover those exposed plates. Just barely. Do not fill it all the way up to the brim yet. I'll explain why in a second. Step 4. Hook it up to a charger and give it a full charge. And you absolutely must do this in a well-ventilated space. An open garage, a barn with a breeze coming through, not a cramped close. When a battery charges, it vents off flammable gas. Outside in the open air, it's harmless. Trapped in a tight room, it's a bomb waiting for a spark. So give those fumes somewhere to go. Now, why did I tell you not to fill it all the way up before charging? Because as the battery charges, the internal liquid heats up, expands, and rises. If you topped it off completely when it was dead and cold, the charging process would push that acid right up and out of the caps, spilling it everywhere. It's a massive hazard, acid the battery needs to function. So, you just cover the plates, charge it fully, and then top it off. Once the charge is done and the battery is full and settled, add enough distilled water to bring the level just below the bottom of the fill hole. Leave a lit pocket of air, then snap or twist your caps back on tight. That is it. That's watering a battery. For $1 of distilled water and 10 minutes of your time, a battery destined for the landfill goes back to work for years. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say it makes it brand new. That's snake oil, and I don't sell it. But it brings it back, keeps it healthy, and keeps it live. I remember my grandpa showing me something similar when I was young, though it wasn't a battery. We were down at the spring house, and he was showing me how the running water kept the butter cool. I asked him how he knew to do all these little things, when to do them, how much to do. He put down what he was holding and said something that stuck with me my entire life. A thing doesn't fail all at once, kid. It tells you it's failing a little at a time, long before it actually quits. A tractor tells you with a speck of rust. A fence tells you with a loose staple. The problem isn't that things break. The problem is that we stop paying attention, and then we call it broken, when the truth is we just stopped maintaining it. That's exactly what's happening with your battery. It was telling you it was thirsty for months. The low water, the slow charging, the weak crank on a freezing morning, that wasn't the battery dying. That was the battery asking for help. You just didn't speak the language. Now you do. Let's move on to the second thing that kills batteries. This one is sneaky because it does its damage while you aren't even looking. It kills them while they sit. A battery left sitting completely dead is a battery digging its own grave. When it drains all the way down and just sits there empty for months, a hard crust forms on the plates. The old timmers used to call it going to sleep too deep to wake up. That crust hardens exactly like scale inside a kettle. The thicker it gets, the less the plate can do its job. The battery gets weaker and weaker until eventually it refuses to hold a charge at all, and it's caused entirely by leaving it sitting dead. The rule of thumb here is simple. Don't let good equipment sit neglected. A plow left in the mud rusts, a horse left in the stall goes stiff, and a battery left dead goes to sleep for good. Keep it charged. If you've got a battery you aren't using over the winter, don't just shove it into a corner. Bring it up to a full charge and check on it occasionally through the cold months. Give it a up charge to keep it healthy. A battery that is fully charged and kept some warm will patiently wait for you all year. A dead battery left out in the freezing cold will be junk by springtime. And temperature really matter here. Cold is tough on a battery, but freezing is a death sentence. A fully charged, healthy battery has strong acid and can survive a freezing night just fine. But a dead battery has weak, watered down electrolyte, make it highly susceptible to freezing solid, just like a glass of water left on the porch. If it freezes, the expanding ice can crack the plastic case or warp the lead plates, and then it is completely trashed. So, keep them charged, which keeps the acid strong, which stops them from freezing. Store them somewhere cool but above freezing, like a basement or a corner of your heated shop. Not roasting hot either, because high heat destroys them too. Cool and stable. Think of where you'd store potatoes. That's generally a great spot for a battery. The third battery killer is the easiest one to spot, which makes it the easiest to fix. The terminals. The metal post on top where your cables clamp on. You've definitely seen it. That crusty, blue-green or chalky fuzz building up on a neglected battery. That corrosion isn't just ugly, it's actively stealing your power. It wedges itself right between the post and the clamp, acting like a resistor. It's like trying to shake someone's hand while wearing a thick winter glove. The physical connection is there, but the current is weak and muffled. You can have a perfectly healthy, watered battery that acts totally dead, simply because the electricity casts past that crust on the terminals. People throw away perfectly good batteries over a surface-level problem that a rag and 5 minutes would have instantly fixed. Here is how you handle it. First, safety gear, eyes and hands covered, because that crust is highly acidic. Unbolt the clamps from the posts. Now grab something straight out of your kitchen pantry, plain baking soda, mix a spoonful into a little cup of water until it's milky, and brush that mixture over the crusty terminals. You'll see it immediately start to foam and fizz. That's the baking soda chemically neutralizing the acid, turning that rock-hard crust into a soft mush you can easily wipe away. Let it bubble for a minute. Then take an old toothbrush and scrub the posts and clamps until they're bare, shiny metal. This next part is important. Rinse the baking soda off with a little splash of clean water and dry everything completely with a rag. You absolutely do not want that neutralized baking soda water dripping down inside the battery cells. Once everything is clean, dry, and shining like a new penny, so one final thing. Take a little bit of standard grease, berries, hin grease, whatever you have handy, and smear a very thin coat over the clean post before you reconnect the cables. That grease acts as a barrier, sealing the bare metal away from damp air, and damp air is exactly what causes that corrosion in the first place. A grease terminal will stay perfect clean for a very long time. It's just common sense. A little grease keeps the elements out. So those are the big three. Water it when it's thirsty, keep it charged so it never sits dead and freezes, and keep the post clean and greased so the power can actually flow. Do those three things, and you'll be using the same battery years after everyone else has thrown theirs away. But I want to be totally straight with you. Not every single battery can be saved. If a battery has been worked to death and the lead plates have physically crumbled and turned to sludge at the bottom of the case, it's done. No amount of distilled water or trickle charging will resurrect it. Everything has a lifespan. I'm not trying to teach you how to raise the dead. I'm teaching you how to stop a perfectly good battery from dying years before it should, which is what happens to the vast majority of them. To give you some context on why I care about this so much, I run my property completely off-grid. We rely on a solar setup to run our water pumps, keep the lights on, and power our fences. In my area, some folks rely on modest solar setup for their daily needs, while others choose to live completely without it, and I respect them for that. I'm not here to argue which way of life is better, but I will tell you this. When your daily life completely depends on a bank of batteries that you manage yourself, you figure out how to keep them alive pretty fast, because there's no utility company to call when the lights go out. It's just you and your maintenance habits. So why is this common knowledge anymore? It's not some grand corporate conspiracy to sell more batteries. It's a lot simpler and, honestly, a lot sadder. The money just flows in one direction. No one gets rich teaching you how to fix a battery for $1. Everyone gets paid when you buy a brand new one for $2. The knowledge of how to main these things just quietly disappeared because nobody had a financial reason to pass it on. The kid at the parts store isn't lying to you. He genuinely doesn't know the old battery could be saved either. So here's what I want you to do. If you've got a dead deep cycle battery sitting around, from an RV, a boat, a riding mower, or a solar bank, before you haul it to the dump, try this. Throw on some safety glasses, check the fluid levels, top off the plates with distilled water, charge it up out in the open air, and clean those terminals. See if it doesn't spring right back to life. Then, drop a comment down below and let me know. Tell me the age of the battery, what it came out of, and if it took the charge. I read the comments, and more importantly, other viewers read them. That's how we pass this knowledge back down, one comment at a time. Now, we aren't always going to be talking about batteries here. I'm going to answer a question I get constantly: how a totally off-grid solar setup actually works out here. I'll walk you through the whole system. From the panels catching the sun to the battery bank, you now know how to maintain. It's way simpler than you might think, and it gives you more freedom than you'd believe. Until then, protect your eyes, buy distilled water, keep those terminals greased, and stop throwing away perfect good gear that just needs a little maintenance.